Good morning, and welcome to the Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists. My name is Beth White, and I will be your service leader for today. If you are visiting, please participate as you feel comfortable. You're invited to stay and introduce yourself after the service with coffee and treats. Our congregation is committed to individual freedom of belief, welcomes diversity, seeks to promote a sense of community, and fosters religion which enriches the spirit. We are a mostly lay-led community, strengthened and enriched by weaving together the volunteer contributions of members and friends. Our community is supported and guided by our minister, Reverend Victoria Poling. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Swababash Coast Salish Native people. The Puyallup people have lived on and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and continue to do so today. We recognize that this land acknowledgement is just one small step toward true allyship, and we commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories of the indigenous peoples of this land and beyond. As we begin our service, please take a couple of breaths to become fully present. Relax and bring your attention to this moment of communal reflection and sharing. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here, you are welcome.
Hi, I'm Kim, and I'd just like to thank you all for wearing orange. And the reason we're wearing orange today is it's the Day of Remembrance. It started in Canada. It started in Canada in 2013 when a woman named Phyllis wrote a book about what it was like to be removed from her family and sent to a boarding school, and her grandma had just given her a lovely orange shirt, and she lost that shirt. So this Day of Remembrance now is really beginning to spread and become international, and in the U.S., it's kind of tied to Native American Heritage Month, which is November, but we sort of wear the orange starting on the 29th through October 1st. So you'll begin to see it more and more, and there'll be more and more just conversation about what it was like to be in boarding schools, and then having us as dominant culture look at that too in terms of history. So thank you.
Thanks, Kim. I'd like to invite Pamela Gott to light our chalice and share our chalice lighting reading.
This is called All Animal Chalice by Mark Cossey. We light this chalice, spark of the original fire of creation, to remind us that we are all on this planet, the furred, the feathered, the finned, and the scaled, along with us featherless bipeds. We are all made of the same star stuff and all share a common destiny. We all share the same hopes of a life free from harm and suffering, and the same aspirations of happiness, love, and flourishing, being able to express our own unique natures and capacities as best we may. We are just that many diverse perspectives from which the whole is seen and experienced. We are inextricably intertwined, interconnected, and interdependent, and it is good.
My dog would agree with that. We are thrilled to welcome back our friend Carla Prine. Carla is a retired Episcopal church living on Maury Island. Most recently, she was the rector at the Church of the Holy Spirit on Vashon from 2010 to 2016. In 1992, Carla was the co-founder and first executive director of Earth Ministry in Seattle. I invite Carla to come up and share our first reading.
Thank you. And thank you, Pamela, for that opening. Where'd you go? There. Well, it's wonderful to be here. Any of you here at the church for the first time today? Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Well, driving from Maury to here, the tide was pretty low. Along the way, I saw both a Douglas squirrel and a gray squirrel and one human at different times crossing the road, each intent on their own journey, their own thing for the day. And a perfect fall day it is. Could it be any more perfect? And any of you see the rainbow last night? I hope you stared. I hope you didn't rush back. There we go. I hope you didn't rush back to whatever was more important than that rainbow. Well, Pastor Victoria asked me to do a blessing of the animals based on a tradition from St. Francis that's popular in a number of traditions, but I guess a first for this congregation. We have at least one live animal, and we are glad about that. And many of you brought stories. I'll invite you to share a little bit later. But so welcome to this inaugural Vashon United Unitarian Fellowship. There is a love, celebrating the love of animals in our life, companion and wild, great and small. So indeed, it is a celebration. Often these ceremonies in different Christian churches that I've been, they're called blessing of the animals, but that's kind of backwards. It's a celebration of their blessing of us, right? We may bless them, but they bless us all the time. And we celebrate today that your Unitarian fellowship, your spiritual communion includes not only those of us without fins and fur, but others that do, that they are our sacred fellowship. So as I look around this room, I can imagine there's a stream behind each of you of animals that you have loved and encountered. So a little reading from a Canadian writer named Robert McLean, a forester and also a Buddhist practitioner. Tent tethered among jack pine and bluebells, lacewings rise from rock, wild geese flying north, and I can't remember who I'm supposed to be. I want to learn how to purr, abandon myself, own no tomorrow nor yesterday. I want to name all the stars, animals, flowers, birds, rocks, in order to forget them and start naming them all over again. I want to wear the seasons, become ancient and etched by weather. I want to peer at things, observing the unfastening, that stripping of shape. I want to sit in the meadows, a rotten stump, pungent with mold, home for pupae and grubs, concentric rings collapsing into the passagaglia of time. I want to crawl inside someone and hibernate one entire night with no clocks to wake me, thighs fragrant loam. I want to melt. I want to swim naked with an otter. I want to follow the spiders as they set sail on their tasseled, shining silk.
written by one of my favorite animals, Tom Dungy, for the one and only dog he ever had. Well, the whole thing started because it looked like fun. Other people have a dog. I'm going to get me one, I said. Have a little friend around the place. So I went to a pet store down the street, and laying in the middle of a canine heap was a sleepy little puppy with a quiet sort of a face. He wrote this a long time ago. I handed over $15 about. I said, I'll stick him in my shirt and just head on out. I reached for the one that looked like a little red fox. And they said, hold on now, you need a collar and a leash. Take him in for shots in a couple of weeks. And it's store policy that he go out of here in a box. Picked up a cardboard box in a minute, took my dog and stuck him down in it, pushed down his ears and folded it over the top. And I could hear it now, how he scratched and cried. No, I stuck him in my shirt. When we got outside, we were almost home before he decided to stop. The next few weeks were certainly strange. Between the barking and thinking up in names, Old Blue, he just wasn't, and Spot didn't really apply. So I settled on Harry. Just because that's how he is, and that's how he was, and that's how the house gets more and more as days go by. I happen to know his dog's name was actually Robert Johnson. Sometimes friends come by for a couple of beers and sit around talking, rubbing his ears, and it's been that way ever since he was a pup. And he sleeps on the bed, and when he rolls over, then I roll over, and then he rolls over. And I roll over, then he rolls over, and then we get up. For a time, I was careful where I sat. The rug got funky, and he chewed up my hat, and it still happens once in a while when he gets mad. But it's been pretty even after all. I've taught him all I know about playing ball, and he's helped me to get rid of a lot of stuff I used to have. But as the years go by through the different conditions, and big changes come with the smallest decisions, and you're in for shock. You think you got it figured, I found. Because who'd have thought I would ever dote on a pet, but looking back now, I always forget how I filled out my time before my dog came around. The whole thing started because it looked like fun. Other people have a dog. I'm going to get me one, I said, and just have a little friend around the place.
Oh, now I'm lost, Kat. You got me so into that. Okay. Well, welcome. We're doing something actually very old here, the connection with the critters. We're doing something very ancient here. A few years back, the English writer Paul Kingsnorth was one of a very small number of people invited to go into a tour of a cave in the French Pyrenees, the Nio Caves, not far from the more well-known Lascaux Caves, but not as ruined either. Very few people let in. Before the end of the last ice age, the Nio Caves were painted by hunter-gatherers 15 to 18,000 years ago, known as the Magdalenians. The Nio Caves are a network of tunnels with stalagmites and stalactites, dozens of side passages, most of them unexplored, multiple icy black lakes. At the very end of the tour, the guide brought the several visitors to the last room. This is Le Salon Noir, the dark chamber. Please extinguish your torches. I guess they were all English. And her single beam turned from the floor to a vast ceiling, curved. High above the walls were paintings teeming with animals, herds of bison, a mammoth pair, groups of ibex, one resting. The colors were so vivid, so incredibly alive. It felt like the animals were alive. The guide stood in silence for a long time and said, "No one lived in these caves." And the artist came here with only sputtering candles to paint the animals. They knew their craft well. Paul observed, yes, right down to the beard on that ibex. It looks like it's dripping. So detailed. So what was this place and why? What connection was being inscribed in the stone? These pictures so vivid, so intimate, and so sacred. Well, there are a lot of pictures here, and a lot of sacred stories, sacred to us. These relationships. Most of us know that without our animal kin, we wouldn't be fully ourselves. We wouldn't be as human. Someone once wrote that without the animals, humans would die of a great loneliness. Some of our connections have been encounters with wild creatures, a creature in no way ours, a bird, a deer, a marmot, a grasshopper. Any of you have those moments? Just, not that these are really ours either. For Craig Foster, some of you might have seen My Octopus Teacher. It was a year. It was a single small year. And he never named her. He knew she wasn't his. But for most of us, we're here to remember our companion animals, relationships that were years long, the shortest years of our life. So I'm going to want you to share your pictures, your snapshots, if not inscribed on stone walls, then certainly carved deeply into your heart. So if you have brought an animal companion, we're going to save the one that's breathing till the very last. But I invite you to come up and simply name your animal, and to help us do it, I'll just start off. Max. Preliminary times. Well, we were his. So anyone want to come up, and if you brought something, share the picture and maybe a word or phrase that describes your relationship to that animal. And if you do, speak into the microphone if you can. So.
Leroy Brown,
He's a chocolate Labrador.
chocolate lab, and he was bad, but loving.
But he was good. One of the best, the smartest dog we ever had. He understood anything we said.
I'll start with Solo Kumbu. Solo Kumbu was a golden retriever who was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, but traveled with our family to Washington, D.C., and yet again when we moved to Kigali, Rwanda. We were quite anxious about taking a dog to Rwanda at that time, but we were reassured by Rwandan friends that it would be very appropriate. There were no dogs still alive in Rwanda. They had to be killed. So she was very rare, and little kids thought she was a lion. But she turned out to be a therapy dog for a number of people, actually a large number of people, learned to come to our home and ask to take her for a walk. And she'd go off with anybody and was very happy. And she made many, many people happy, including a gardener who worked in our neighborhood. Hadn't spoken. She had been traumatized during the genocide, and she hadn't spoken for a year at all. She was 16, and I gave her the job of brushing the dog every day. And slowly, 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 I started hearing her speak to the dog. And eventually, yes, she came back to herself. And this is a penguin just because I love penguins. My niece is a zoologist and environmental educator, and when she was working in in Hawaii, she had a chapter with her Hawaiian students about they each had to choose a very endangered animal, and several of the students chose this particular snail, which was very endangered on the island of Oahu. Now, he's very tiny in real life. But with her students, she made about 15 of these, and they took them all over and took pictures of them and publicized the fact that this snail was endangered. So I'm lucky to have one of it. I don't remember her name. I know she has a name, but anyway.
I'm Kurt. And these are our two cats, stepmom. Yeah, the black one is Tatu, and the gray one is Mabili. They're Swahili names, that they were given those names when I picked them up. And they were my pets when I was living alone. I lived alone. I knew I needed to be by myself for a while, and then I knew that it was time to have pets. And my son, who was at Berkeley at the time, was coming up and visiting, and he went with me to pick them up. And I didn't know she was in the deal. I wanted him because he showed so much spunk. And she was hiding up on the balcony, and when I went out to check out to pay, he's got a sister too, and they come as a duo, right? I did not grow up in a cat family. It was a dog family. But I love these guys. I love them, I love them, I love them. And they're getting older, and they're showing signs of their age, and I'm sad, but I'm happy.
Hi, my name is Jill. I'm visiting because I wanted to come and hear Carla talk about blessings for animals. This is Shawnee, and he came from New Zealand with a family to Oregon, and they were going back to New Zealand, and they couldn't take him. So I got him when he was 3, and his name was Stormy, which didn't fit at all. I've had 3 corgis. He's the calmest I've ever had, and he never barks. He's amazing. And he was a farm dog, had never been in the house. So he feels like he's in heaven, living with me on the beach. So he's always right there. So he's a blessing to me, just as you said.
This is Willow. Willow was found in the mountains with her 6-month-old pup, and discovered that she was living in a drug house. And so they were brought back to Vashon, and our friends Sheila and Bernetta convinced me to bring Willow home a couple years ago. And she, as Tom Dundee said, her nickname could be Harry because our house is hairy. Our vacuum cleaner is very happy and very tired.
Hi, I'm Ted, and I don't have a picture this morning, but we had 2 cats, and Vicki picked out one of them out of a litter here on Vashon, and a black and white cat, brought it home. We named it Sam, but Sam was very lonely, and it kept crying and crying and crying, and Vicki finally said, I'm going to have to take this cat back. You know, it's just too lonely. So she called up the person from whom she'd gotten the cat, who said, no, she has a sibling, and the sibling wants to come join her. So we ended up with 2 cats, Sam and Xander, and they were really funny cats. They would get one at each end of our backyard and one at the other, and then they'd run at each other, and then when they got close together, they jumped straight up in the air. And when we came home at night, we'd be driving down the driveway, and these cats would be sitting out there waiting for us, like they were, with their eyes shining. And then we have a basement, and the cats would be in the basement, and we put little bits of food right near the door, and then watch, and you see these little paws come out, trying to grab the food. And anyway, they were, a tremendous amount of fun. So those cats really blessed us, just as you said.
I'll be brief, even though I have a few animals. I saw a coyote on the way out of the house today, tiny, crossing the road, and it felt like such a blessing. But this past week, we lost a tiny animal. Geralt was about the size of your thumb. He was a dwarf hamster, and we hardly ever saw him. He was a little tiny winter white animal, and he was named after The Witcher, because we don't usually get male hamsters. He was very cute, and I'm very sad that he's gone, but he lived to be almost 3, which is unusually long for a hamster. I have others that I won't mention, but this past year, my sister had an episode in the middle of the night, and they have 2 service dogs, which I always thought were more emotional because they've never had kids. But my sister would not be alive without these dogs, because in the middle of the night she was having some kind of event that might have been a stroke. It was inconclusive what was going on, but the dogs went crazy, woke up her husband. She was catatonic, she could not speak. She was at death's doorstep practically, and the dogs got her the help she needed. And one just went through surgery last week and is fine. But what a blessing that these animals have saved her life. And I'm sad at the passing, and I'm grateful for those animals that are there.
Hi, I'm Vicki. Ted didn't say that Sam and Xander lived to be 18 and 19 years old. And we still miss them. I think about it. They used to come down the driveway and greet us, and I'd open the door and they'd get in the car. I mean, it was just, they were just the sweetest kitties. I loved them. Ted forgot to mention one of our favorite pets. We went through a lot of birds and turtles and gerbils and hamsters and mice and, you name it. But one day a friend had said, I have a big cinnamon bunny I'd like to give you. And I had 2 children at the time, and I had my nieces living with us. So there were really 4 kids under 10 there at the time. And Nicholas was this bunny's name. Now, we named the bunny Nicholas because of the book you may remember about the little bunny named Nicholas. Anybody remember that? I'll bring it. It's my favorite book. And so we put the bunny in a basket of straw, and the kids all kissed it goodnight, and we kept it in the garage because I didn't know about allergies with so many young children. And when we woke up in the morning, Nicholas had had 9 babies. And it was such a wonderful experience with my nieces and the little children. I mean, 9 baby bunnies that were cinnamon colored were just beyond belief. So we changed the name from Nicholas to Mrs. Nicholas. We all love Miss. I'm going to bring that book and read it to you sometime. It's the book. Every time I see it, I cry because I miss that bunny and the fun we had. I think it was Easter week, maybe too. Anyway, that was joy, pure joy for everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. Come on up. You can show your phone. Yeah. Okay. Anybody who wants to corner me after this can look at lots and lots of pictures on my phone. This is Circe and Rowan, who just turned 1. And Spencer and I had an empty nest this last year, and we lasted 2 months. And so then I really wanted a dog, and I wanted a border collie mix because that's the dog that my parents got after I left home, because we never had a dog growing up. I was not a dog person at all. We always had cats. And so I found a farm that had Coltreavers, half golden retriever, half border collies. And it's a farm that does animal experiences for children with autism. And it's called Crooked Rooster Farm up north of Seattle. And we have 1 child on the spectrum, and so we really wanted to support what she did. And she said, okay, the dog picks you. So you're going to go, and you're going to pick up each dog, and you're going to hold it to your heart, and you're going to know. And so I walked in, and this one little girl dog was like, me, 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 me. You know, she's still that way. And so I picked her up, and I was like, this is my dog. And then Spencer noticed this other little dog, and he's like, well, what about this dog? He picked the dog up, held it to his heart, and we went home with 2 dogs. Everybody told us, don't get 2 dogs. We got 2 dogs, and they've just changed everything for our household. I just love them so much. I had no idea, and I lived my whole life without dogs until I was like 54. So anyway, I was a little late this morning because it is really hard for me to deal with both of them by myself, because they know I'm leaving, and they won't come in from outside because they're like, no, you're leaving. We don't want to go in our kennels, but enough treats, they'll go in their kennels. So anyway, Rowan and Circe, a year-old Coltreavers, and we love them so much. They've eaten the hot tub. They've eaten carpets. They've just destroyed all kinds of things, and we've gotten rid of all those things that you have to get rid of stuff somehow. So it's been an adventure, but they're starting to settle down a little bit, and by 2 years, maybe we'll bring them to visit here, but not right now. It's chaos squared. Thank you. Thank you. And
Hi, I'm Kate, and if we had not had cats, I think we would not have had children. So this story goes like this. My husband is an academic psychologist and can be a little over-intellectual about a variety of things. And early on in our marriage, he declared that he thought we probably should not have children because we were killing all of the houseplants. So clearly we would be unfit parents. And so after he had explained this to one of his colleagues, Evelyn, another psychologist, she said, Bob, okay, some of you remember Miller analogies from high school or college or something, all those tests. Nail is to hammer, as screw is to screwdriver, those kind of things. And Evelyn said to Bob, well, Bob, houseplants are to cats and dogs as cats and dogs are to children in terms of the care they require. However, houseplants are to cats and dogs as cats and dogs are to children in terms of their ability to fend for themselves and make sure you take care of them. So Bob thought, okay, we'd better try a cat and see if the cat survives. So for some reason, he decided Siamese cats were the things to get, and we got a cat, which I named Jenny, being still attached to Paul Gallico's book about...
Yes, I had a Jenny.
Yes. Okay, so we got Jenny, and Jenny turned out to be a stunningly territorial cat. Bob felt that you had to substitute for the fact you took him away from the parents, and so he trained the cat to attack things. So you would walk by the bed and Jenny would dart out from underneath the bed and bite you in the ankle, and Bob thought that was lovely, and I thought that was really an annoying thing to have taught the cat. But in due time, we had children. Jenny went on to protect the house at all times, so if somebody she didn't know came and the person sat down on a chair, Jenny would go and sit on their lap, and they would think, oh, what a nice cat. But really, she wasn't. She was pinning them down, and so if they tried to pet her, she would bite them. And so she stayed there. And she continued this for pretty much the 20 years that we had her. So she was still terrorizing house guests when the children were in college. It was great. Jenny didn't eat as many things as everybody else is talking about. She did, however, like socks fresh out of the dryer. So at some point, she ate enough sock that we didn't realize that was what had happened. She was very sick. We took her to the animal clinic, which in Champaign, Illinois, mostly deals with cows and horses and stuff like that. But they had instructions on the wall for dealing with cats, and they gave her IV fluids and decided maybe there's a thing, some kind of object in her stomach, and we're going to do surgery. And eventually, she got hydrated enough that she vomited up a piece of sock, by which time she had become enlivened again, and they called us up and said, you get her out of that cage. And sent her home with a Ziploc bag and instructions saying, don't feed your cat socks. Okay. But Jenny was extremely loyal. We had a number of cats after that, but Jenny was outstanding.
This is Red. Some of you knew Red. Yeah. My mother hated dogs. Right. And so I didn't have the opportunity to have more than one for about 2 weeks. You know, I had one. And then we moved, and somehow the dog disappeared. Kim introduced me to dogs. And this is the most lovely dog I've ever had. And we've had several, you know? And this dog died, a year and a half ago, about a year ago? She was a dog that not only complied, she complied first request. You know, come here. There she was. And she was docile, and she was just wonderful. I think animals know things, and I believe that this dog died of a pancreatic issue because it was taking on the pain of somebody in our family. She was wonderful.
Okay.
These are 4 creatures: Lassie, Harry, Pumpkin, Polly, Gus, and Zoe. So I'll tell you who they are. Lassie, when I was 5, we lived in Kentucky, and there was a big flood, and I don't have a picture, but you can, I know you'll be able to picture this cat. This cat was about this big. Her name was Spirit, and she was a coloratura. She could sing. She would go, and she'd follow me around and do that. I adopted her at a gig, and she just came home. She was one of those that kind of looks like a Rorschach test, or a tiny Guernsey or something. And she had green eyes and a pink nose, and she had a lot to say, and she was clumsy, which is a very rare thing for a cat, and she wasn't ashamed of it, which is very rare. So when I had radiation treatment when I was about 47 and I was falling asleep on the couch without knowing it, I would just kind of watch something and it just go, and she would sleep on the back of the couch, and then she would fall asleep and land on my head, because she would just go like that. But I know that a lot of you know my favorite student, James. So when James is severely autistic, if anybody doesn't know. So I first met him when he was 12, and he wasn't looking me in the eye for a few weeks. And the first thing he said to me was like this. He'd say, "Do cats sing?" And he said that to say hello, if I saw him in town, he would say, "Do cats sing?" And finally I said, "My cat sings." And he said, "Does cat's cat sing?" And I said, "She does." And after a little while he said, "What's cat's name?" And I said, "Well, her name is Spirit." And he started saying, "Does Spirit sing?" To total strangers. And this autistic 12-year-old kid, from what I remember, this is 12 years ago, I think, or something pretty close to that, but he was walking up to, say, Snow White at Disneyland and saying, "Does Spirit sing?" To total strangers, and I'm sure that they would just look at him and think, "I just met a 12-year-old bodhisattva, of course Spirit sings." So that was my story.
Oh, one more? Yeah, come up so we can see and hear you. Stormy, right?
Yes, Stormy. I have an animal name. We're animal Stormies. Hi, I'm Stormy. I just moved here a week ago, and I don't want to name all the animals. I don't know that I could even remember. I grew up with lots of animals. I had a horse that was my best friend. But what I wanted to share is that I ended up being able to come to Vashon Island sooner than I had planned when I was looking for a place, because I am house sitting for somebody. Some of you may know Deirdre, and I am house sitting Ziggy and taking care of him. He is a Great Dane lab mix, and I think it's just so synchronistic and sweet that this is the conversation here today. And Ziggy has some developmental trauma, as do I, so we're going to take care of each other while his parents are away.
Please, if you can come up with your creature. Yeah. We do have one. I think next year you'll have 20. So this year we'll start off training. One.
Yes, I was going to say, Karina. Hi, lovely to see you all. And it's quite a surprise for us to be here this morning. I hadn't been to visit for a long time, I think pre-pandemic. And just got it in my head to see what time your schedule was and noticed that the animals were invited, and I've been to the Blessing of the Animals at the Episcopal Church in the past, which is closer to my house. Anyway, this is Harry. Harry Ruckus, nice synchronicity, who is a Zen master and part Ewok, and a Shih Tzu, sometimes just the first part. Mostly he's fantastic. He also knows Circe and Rowan. They've come and stayed at our house. He's raised 4 cats recently, and now he's raising a pit bull husky puppy who's home sleeping, hopefully, in his kennel. So it's lovely to be here. I used to have as many as 70 animals. Not here. I had a farm in Texas, and had 2 petting zoos. Some of those were container animals. For a minute, I homeschooled my twins when they were in 1st grade, and I ended up teaching a class on habitats, and we got 1 animal, and I don't know what happened after that, how it multiplied, but it wasn't the actual animal that multiplied, but we got a ball python. And somehow I ended up with many reptiles and amphibians, and began a business taking them around for educational things at libraries. And then some of the parents at the homeschooling group asked me to bring the animals for birthday parties. So suddenly my twins were employed, making big bucks when they were like in 3rd grade. But Harry's happy to be here, and it's nice to get reacquainted. Thank you.
Just stay there for a minute and just join me in a thought, which is Thanksgiving, for play, for laughter, for intimacy, for consolation, for wholeness, for great smells, for Harry, and for all the animals we love. We do love. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we have such a short time. You can't talk about this without naming that, and many of you have already named animals that you've lost. So one of my favorite little words about this is from a writer named Irving Townsend. We who choose to surround ourselves with lives even more temporary than our own, we live within a fragile circle, easily and often breached. Unable to accept its awful gaps, we would still live no other way. We would live no other way. We cherish memory as the only certain immortality, never fully understanding the necessary plan. And so just for a moment, raise and say the name of someone you've lost that's an animal. Louder. Max. On behalf of Lizzie Corliss, a horse she had for more than 20 years, Reba. Just pause for a moment and listen. Just a couple strings, a couple notes as we remember. Close with a story. First of all, thank you for sharing so much. I bet you know each other a little better, too. We're part of a long lineage. We join Neanderthals, Denisovans, the Magdalenes in France, tens of thousands of years, the Paleolithic people. And so I'll leave you with this. In the hundreds of animal scenes that Paul Kingsnorth viewed in the Neo caves, he noticed something striking in its absence. Not a single animal or scene depicted hunting. There are no hunters and no weapons, no blood. The paintings are not Neolithic news briefs celebrating the conquest of needed sustenance. In that dark chamber, there were actually no humans in the paintings at all. The creatures moving in and around the stone were not prey. So why paint them? And why paint them with such color, such precision, such sheer beauty? Paul wrote, "It was almost as if they were floating untethered to the world." And he concludes, "It was as if something old and darkly powerful has descended from the roof of the cavern and settled in me and will not leave. I don't know what they did or who they were, but I can feel the power in the place, and it tells me why they might have come here. Whoever was here and whatever they were doing, they were forging a connection, which surely sprang from the sense of power and smallness and wonder and awe that I feel as I stand in the same place the artist would have stood. This was a reaching out to, a reaching for, something way beyond our comprehension. This was a meeting with the sacred. Or as our First Nations friends say, all our relations."
Thank you so much, Carla. Please join me in a moment of silence as we reflect on all that we have experienced in the last few minutes. We will now be pausing the recording as we prepare for joys and concerns. As a caring community, we set aside is, I suppose, a blessing. Please join in singing "There Is a Love" as you feel comfortable. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. And we'll resume recording as we finish our service. As members and friends of the Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists, we commit to supporting our fellowship. Financial resources help us pay speakers and staff, support the social justice programs, and maintain our building. Please support VIUU with your pledges and offerings so that we can continue to be a vital community. Our congregation engages beyond walls for peace, social and economic justice, freedom of belief, and protection of our planet and its inhabitants. Once a month, we contribute the financial offering to a community organization that aligns with our values. This week's offering supports our beloved community. I invite our greeters to come up and pass around the offering basket, and as we do so, please join in singing "Oh, We Give Thanks." precious day. We're all gathered right here, with us far away, for the time we share with what I care. We give thanks for this precious day. We give thanks for this precious day. We're all gathered here, and it's far away, for the time we share with love and care. We give thanks for this precious day.
I have a very brief benediction adapted from John O'Donohue, and I think many of you know his work. But I wanted to say that those last two songs have been in my head all week. It's kind of cool anticipating coming here. I hadn't thought about those songs in a long time, but There Is a Love and We Give Thanks have been in my heart all week. A book called To Bless the Space Between Us. Nearer to the earth's heart, deeper within its silence, animals know this world in a way we never will. We who are ever distanced and distracted by the parade of bright windows thought opens, their seamless presence is not fractured thus. Stranded between time gone and time emerging, we manage seldom to be where we are. Whereas they are always looking out from the here and now. May we learn to return. May we learn to return and rest in the beauty of animal being. Learn to lean low, leave our locked minds, and with freed senses, feel the earth breathing in us. Let the clear silence of our animal being cleanse our hearts, and may we learn to walk upon the earth with all their confidence and clear-eyed stillness, so that our minds might be baptized in the name of the wind and the light and the rain. So thank you all for sharing so much, and now let your joy out in this song.
If you don't know it, you soon will. This is written by my old friend Bill Staines, who we just lost a few years ago suddenly. I love this song. Here's the chorus. I'm going to do it a couple of times. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, pause, or anything they got. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, pause for everything they got. Now listen to the bass, that's the one on the bottom with the bullfrog croaks and the hippopotamus groans who groans with the big to do, and the old cow just goes moo. The dogs and the cats, they take up the middle where the honeybee hums and the cricket fiddles, the donkey brays and the pony neighs, the old coyote howls. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, pause for everything they got. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, pause.
And this reading was by a quote by Karen Johnston. It says, "We bless all animals. We bless those we know and love. We bless those unknown to us who have benefited our lives. We bless even the ones that can harm us, affirming with humility their place in the interdependent web. We affirm the impulse for humans to live in right relation with all other animals on this earth. May we honor our best presence as part of the animal family."
Our formal service is now over. I'd like to give special thanks to Reverend Carla Prine for her message, her inspiration, and bringing the animal blessings to the VIUUs. May it be our first annual. Yes. To our chalice lighter, Pamela Gott, Kat for her lovely music, and Catherine for being our tech wizard. And Earl for hanging on to the fifth Sunday greeting group, which needs a little bit of population. So if you are not yet in a setup group and would like to have just a little sweet way to volunteer only occasionally, it's for the fifth Sunday of the year, of the month, talk to Earl. Okay. So this is a time for announcements. If you have an announcement related to us, please come forward and tell us about it.
Hi, I'm Catherine from the program committee. First of all, thank you for everyone for being here for September, all the folks involved in putting together the services. Much gratitude to you. October, our theme is deep listening. And so next Sunday, we're going to be welcoming our first guest UU minister, Reverend Michael Walker. The title of his talk is "We Have Two Ears But One Tongue." Attributed to two ancient Greek philosophers, the proverb about having two ears but one tongue was to remind us to listen more than we speak. Second weekend, October 13th, our minister, Reverend Victoria, will be joining us. October 20th, we're doing soul collaging. We talked about that last weekend, so that should be exciting. And then the 27th, our social justice committee is putting together the service. It's with Dune, also known as Kathy DeSmit. She's going to be doing a deep listening into our inner selves. So I hope to see you then.
Last Sunday, after enjoying Kat's beautiful singing and guitar playing, I just went up and I said, "Kat, do you have any of your CDs? I want some of your CDs." She ran up to her car and she got 3 of them, and I bought them from her. I've been listening to them all week. So, Kat, do you have any more CDs in your car? Well, do you have the one about the dog that you sang today? Oh, can you record that for us, please? But anyway, I love this music, and it's so Vashon, and it just warms my heart. So ask Kat if you'd like to get some of her CDs. Yeah.
The first, more oriented towards UUs, I'm kind of getting the feeling that, yes, people would enjoy having a marketplace here. So I'm thinking the Sunday after Thanksgiving would be a good way to welcome the holidays in. So if anybody would like to help me in the planning of that, I've been kind of given the idea that that's a possibility, so I'm going to check on that date. But I'm still looking to do something to raise money for our beloved community and to help us lighten the load and to make the winter holiday celebrations less of a burden on our planet. And finally, in the spirit of Unitarian Universalism that accepts all faiths and beliefs, the coming week is the beginning of the High Holy Days for the Jewish faith. Our neighbors, the Vashon Chavara, are celebrating on Thursday, the 3rd, It's basically a morning service, and then in the afternoon, we meet at 4 o'clock at Liza Beulah to do a ceremony called Tashlik, which is the casting off of all that is old from the past and enabling us to be more empty and ready to receive the deep introspection that happens at Yom Kippur next week, the following week, to begin our new year with a clean slate. And it happens at a living body of water. So Liza Beulah, 4 p.m. You're certainly welcome to come to High Holy Day services beginning in the morning. You can check the Chavurah website. But Liza Beulah will be there, and I will be blowing the shofar. And so 4 p.m. on Thursday, and I will endeavor to bring the shofar to Sunday's meeting next week as well. Trying to keep it all together. So welcome in Lashana Tova, which is to a good year.
Hi, I'm Earl, and I don't do orange. I don't have anything orange. But keeping with the spirit, I made carrot cake for coffee hour.
Hi, I'm Kate, and this is your public service announcement for the week. I will point out that Vashon Pharmacy is starting its high-speed mass immunization starting Wednesday, the 2nd. So going to be similar to last year, except there's more space now. There are 2 more rooms, so it won't be like in front of all the people trying to get to things and asking us where things are, and we don't know because we don't work there. So, flu shots, COVID shots, new COVID shot this year. Everybody is supposed to get the COVID shot, even if you had one last spring, unless it's maybe you're within 2 months of having had COVID itself. RSV is the other one for almost everybody in this room. RSV was respiratory syncytial virus